Ching, 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 ching. Ding, 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 kakank.
Jank.
Kakank. Yo, welcome back. Ho, ho, ho. It is the cartooning Santas making their first appearance of the year. I love it. Well, hello and ho, ho, ho. Welcome back to Pencil to Pencil, your favorite livecast show. It's like I know what I'm doing. Love it. Guys, you may be ensorcelled by our matinee idol good looks and lantern jaws, but also, you're also ensorcelled by our smiling angelic countenances. That's right. Look at us. Guys, welcome back to Pencil to Pencil. You know how this works. If it's Wednesday, 8 p.m. EST somewhere in the world, you know you're going to be with us, and I love you for it. Also, I know that if you're with us and you're settled down into your chair for a long winter's nap, don't sleep yet. You got to get through the episode.
Don't get the shaky legs.
Don't get the Jimmy leg right now. You got to wait. It must be pitch me. I must be dreaming time. Let's do some intros. My name is JAMAR NICHOLAS. I'm your first host. Besides, I am Sans Santa Cap. I'm out of uniform. I get demoted. And I get demerits for that.
Secret Santa. See,
I am Secret Santa. What a great way to bring that back, Mike. Besides this hat, I wear many other hats. I am on the board of the National Cartoon Society. That must stand for something. On top of that, I'm also the chapter chair of the whole city, the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Go Birds. We're back in the catbird seat. On top of all those other things, I also have a middle grade graphic novel series at Scholastic Graphics. Leon the Extraordinary is the name of the series. I'm going to spoil it, guys. It's already on pre-order with no cover. So I'll just tell you now. I was trying to be coy. The title of the next Leon book is called, I know, the internet spoiled it for me. Leon and the Big Problem. Pre-order it now. It'll be in stores November 2026.
When did the pre-order go up?
It just went up like the other day. But I'm trying not to talk about it because there's no cover. It says image unavailable. When the cover shows up, I'll talk more about it, but that's how the system works.
Does that mean there's going to be a lot of variants? People are drawing their own variant covers?
There's no variants. There's no variants, no. I would be remiss if I did not introduce my cohort, co-queso, and conquistador, co-conspirator. He is doing his, John Cena retired last weekend. Now, I saw him backstage politicking for a new spot on the roster of WWE Raw. He is known in these streets as the world heavyweight champion of webcomics. We're going to do a title merge soon. By God, it must be Stone Cold Steve Conley. What's up, Steve Conley?
Gentlemen, it is so good to see you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Steve Conley. I write and draw the webcomic The Middle Age. You can find it at middleagecomic.com. It's on Webtoons, Tapas, Go Comics. And I also make TTRPG stuff. So if you play the Dungeons and the Dragons.
And the Dragons.
My latest book is called Stabracadabra for TTRPG. My latest book is called Stabracadabra. The Kickstarter campaign ends in Synchronize Your Watches 24 hours. It's going great. I was really surprised. First time I'm running one in the holiday season. And so far so great. But I would be conquistador. I would be remiss. I would be chili con carne if I did not introduce the Tower of Power, the Man of the Hour. What is that on your shoulder, Mike?
Oh, hold on, I can't see his face.
The ghost on
Phantom?
the ghost who walks on the shelf.
The Tower of Power, the Man of the Hour, too sweet to be sour, Mr. Mike Manley.
Hey-oh.
Yay! Hello, everyone.
Well.
I'm Mike Manley, a longtime veteran of comics and drawings that need to be drawed. And I'm very happy to be here this week to do our year-end wrap-up show. I feel so Hollywood saying that. Like, You know, we're gonna have a cavalcade of guest stars popping through for seconds. You know,
That's Sammy Davis Jr. and and Charo is going to be on
That's
after
right.
the break.
Sammy Davis is going to come out and sing the Kingdom Beretta.
That's fantastic. Hold on, I want to just for anybody that's watching who's kind of like disoriented right now. If your orientation is funky, if for some reason your screen isn't doing what you wanted to do, guess what? StreamYard just introduced a vertical stream. So there's two streams happening concurrently. If you're in the wrong one, exit out of this, go back to our YouTube channel, and pick the right one, baby. That should get you right. So
there will be a little phone icon next to the vertical one.
It's very small.
Yeah.
But it's there. You can see it. Have you? I think the only person that's ever commented on it was America's Tom Zoller. I was about to ask you guys like this vertical horizontal thing? I don't think we have any control over it, so maybe it doesn't even matter if you like it or not. There's nothing we can do about it. Just pick the one that works for you.
I think it's slimming. I like it.
Okay, all right, I'm with that. So guys, I want to jump right into it. I am very excited to say with my brothers in cartooning that we made it, you guys. We got through another year. This was a long year, but it was also short.
Yeah,
right. I feel like once we got to June, it just flew.
Yeah,
it's a good thing that it was the long was short. I know a lot of people got beat up this year, man.
Yeah, word up.
A lot of people got beat up this year, man.
Yeah, it was a rough year, and just the way the world, the way of how everything's going, the way our industry is kind of like eating its own tail. There's a million things to talk about, but this isn't the doom and gloom episode, guys. There's always a silver lining. There's always something good. That's the way
always tomorrow.
That's the way, right? That's the way I frame the world, and my dog seems to think so. So this isn't the woe is me episode. It's the 2025 wrap-up episode. That's right. You heard it here first. So what we're going to do tonight, you guys, is we're going to not necessarily do a Rick D's case of countdown. You remember Rick D's, right? We're going to kind of touch on some or the major things that kind of happen in the industry. Have a conversation about it. But I would love, while we're kind of getting our act together, and I close the door to my studio so I don't hear.
He's having a conversation about it right now.
Yeah, he doesn't like it. He's on the fence.
And another thing,
I want to ask the chat. Chat, we had a banger year on Pencil to Pencil. I got to say, I'm very proud of what we accomplished this year. We had a murderer's row of guests on this show. If we didn't have, this is weird. There's like a little timer thing on here now. Like it's telling me that it's going to shut off. It's too much stuff. StreamYard, give me a break. I don't want it. I want some control. It's got there's a little clock next to it now that says 10 seconds. Like I want to talk about stuff. Don't count me down. So chat.
That's your producer. They turned into a producer now. Like they're like,
that's right.
Cut.
Don't shut me off. Don't count me off. What was your favorite episode this year, Pencil to Pencil? Like I said, we had a lot of really exciting guests. I don't even know where to start. We also had, some really fantastic content with just your three expert cartoonists that I'm very, very proud of. I love Ask the Cartoonist. I love that we were able to kind of go back to that well. I also love that our shop talks are great. We did a little drawing for you. Mike's series on backgrounds was fantastic. What a banner year for Pencil to Pencil. So let's start off with that and see if the chat has anything they'd like to tell us about. I don't know.
What's coming in with number one for the chat?
That voice is ill. I love it. So, well, maybe I'll stimulate the expert cartoons by asking you questions. Steve, before we get into these banners of topics, how was this year for you?
It was challenging. I mean, not just because of gestures broadly, but I had a leg injury that kind of sidelined my big chunk of the year. It happened late in the year, so I was actually pretty productive up until then. But like in August, I had like 3 months of some difficulty. I put on a game face every Wednesday night.
You did,
but that was challenging. But that's kind of behind. So I'm looking forward to the next year. But this year was good. A lot of cartooning done. A lot of graphic design work, a lot of I don't know whether I think preparing. This felt like in some ways a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
So I think 2026 is going to be pretty awesome. But I'm very happy about Stabracadabra. Again, the TTRPG communities really welcomed me. I didn't realize in making the middle age that I was kind of laying the groundwork in that fantasy area, and kind of I wasn't. It's some people call the middle age like an homage to D&D or like a parody. It's not. There's no relationship between the game and it, but it grew from the same place. Love of fantasy, a love of that stuff, and I don't know. It's great. I originally was doing the game stuff just to kind of get it to see if that audience would be interested in my graphic novels and my webcomic, but it just turns out it's a whole other thing, and that community has been very welcoming. So it's been pretty great.
Oh, that's really cool. And yeah, and I got to give you your flowers. You grimaced and smiled through being in extreme pain for a while. And I'm not a suck it up buttercup, throw dirt on it and put on a game face guy. That's just how you handled it, and I applaud you for it. I would have been like, bro, I'm off for 8 months. Go get Ray Anthony Height. He can do it. I'm out.
It wasn't my drawing foot, so I was fine.
I love it. Mike, how about you? How do you put this year into a little pita pocket?
Well, I would say knock on Flamica. Health-wise, this was a good year because I didn't have any bypasses, didn't have to go to the hospital, didn't have to have any operations. So that was good. Work-wise, steady. Again, knock on wood. It's a real mixed bag because there's no way to escape the fact that because of the ongoing political strife, it makes everything more difficult, and it affects everybody I know and everybody I work with and everybody that I care about not in a positive way at all. And I think it affects the business, our business. It's a harder year for a lot of artists. So I feel fortunate because the strips are continuing, right? So yeah, it's but I feel less. I personally feel less. I don't know if it's positive or more resigned to things that I thought or predicted would happen are actually happening, which doesn't make me happy. And I think, it's just really choppy waters for anybody who's a visual artist this year. I think this was the year where you could really see we're hoping this doesn't happen, to no, this stuff is happening, and it's happening in a fairly consistent manner, right? So the business didn't die, right? And I re-upped my contracts for the strips, which is good because, again, it's a tough market for newspapers. It's a tough market for comic strips, and it's a tough market. Yeah, and it's a tough market for comic books, and it's tough. Whatever rung you are on, that rung is harder to hold on to now. And so, yeah, I would say it's definitely a mixed bag. There are definitely some positive things, and I feel more fortunate than many people that I know. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very sad for many of the people I know who are great artists but are really having a hard churn of it. Because I talk to a lot of different people who work in different, students and young people trying to come in, and older professionals being affected by things, people in mid-career being affected by things, people who are starting out trying to get a foothold. Where can you get a foothold? So yeah, I'm looking, and then like the last couple of weeks, so I'm really looking forward just to tearing that calendar off the wall and the 26th, even if just like a mental thing, sort of like to just bundle this, and I think this is the first year, to be really honest, where I was aware of my age. I'm never really aware of my age, right? It's just like from the time I'm 15 to now, in many respects, right? Just the same thing. But having turned 64 in October, this is the first time that I'm aware of my personal timeline in a way that I don't think that I was, even when I turned 50, because 50 was not, and 50 was 14 years ago. So, and I remember turning 50 because I was in school, but I'm much more aware of the road ain't going to go on forever. I still want it to go on forever, but I'm going to have to do some reprioritizing. And that happens to everybody at a different, you reprioritize when you go from your teens into your 20s, from your 20s into your 30s. Maybe you're in your middle of your career, things go good or go bad, you things. So I think turning 64 really focused me on the fact that, I'm 64, which is not how it was when I was 63. And having a coming up. So,
Mike, Paul Pate, what up, Paul Pate? Paul Pate, who is healing up himself. Get better, Paul Pate. Ask Mike, what about your age is impacting you? Is it just kind of like what about your age is impacting you? Like you just kind of talked on that a second ago. Is it kind of like, do you just feel like even the feeling of all of a sudden you feel old and you never felt old before?
I don't know if I don't feel old, but I don't feel young. Right? I used to work crazy hours. I'd work, let's say even 7 or 8 years ago, I work 21 hours in a row and then go to sleep. I can't do that now. You know what I mean? I'm aware that the good charge on the battery is not what it was, right? And I read this article that you age in sudden, little chunks. So maybe just in the last couple of, they said one of them was like when you're 60. So I didn't really feel that, but I feel it, not like I don't have energy, but I don't have the, and maybe it's the desire to punish myself. You know, when I was 50, I was teaching a couple places, I was in school, and I was full-time working professional, right? So you have to accept it. You just have to accept it because that's where you are. A lot of people try to deny it, right? A lot of people try to deny how they're feeling. But I think if you accept it, then you can find better ways to manage your time, right? Like, it's not really a good thing to work 18-hour days. Physically, it's not, right? And if I do that now, I will pay the price for it that I didn't even just a couple years ago. So it's different.
So what you're saying, I think even like one of the mantras that used to get kind of shouted around our camps is like, I've said it a billion times, it's the warrior's death, you know, dropping dead over your art board. So
that may still happen. I mean, you know, like the old cartoon joke, you know.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Steve?
No, yeah, that idea of just dying at your art table. It's kind of, it sounds poetic, but it also sounds, you're going to ruin the art.
Well, only if you rot. Only if you rot onto the art. If you just rot onto the floor, if you fall back, you just rot in your chair, not on your last piece.
That's a good death hack.
It's your hand.
It's a good what your death rattle gets one last panel out
until you spontaneously combust.
So work in a trough is what we're saying. Just set your art table in a trough and.
So Paul Pate says, but you have wisdom and precision of a vet cartoonist.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's what they say. What age robs you of things, but if you pay attention, it gives you wisdom, right? So I am rearranging. I was even talking to the guys before that. So I've sort of been. I was always a really late night person ever since I was a teenager. But I found lately that, you know, and it'll still happen where I would get that at 1 o'clock, you know, you get that boost. You could go to 4 or 5 in the morning. But what I found now is I would rather go to bed earlier and get up earlier rather than just constantly drain the battery, right? I don't think that that's wise for me at this point. When you're, you know, when you're young, I certainly did that. I burned the candle at both ends in the middle for over 60 years, but I can't really do that now. And I guess I also sort of don't really want to do that now. And maybe that's the other thing, you know, it's like I had in my head all my life this idea of what it meant to be a working professional. And some of that just does not apply now.
Well, what I wanted to say real quick to that is, even now living in, I don't want to call it a postmodern self-care world, because that seemed to be a thing that was being packaged for a while. Self-care, touch grass, blah, 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 get some sleep, drink water, all that other kind of stuff. But I think there's something to that, right? And what I was going to say is, I feel like this Bard song that we're talking about is work. It was a badge of honor to be up all night and crushing pages. Oh man, I burned out like 15 pages like in 3 days. Oh man, you're crazy. I know, right? It was fantastic. You pay a price somewhere, and I don't think we're celebrating that now as being sexy. And I'm here for that. I feel like that's like a poor use of your soul, and it's going to catch up to you. I know that's kind of part of the gig too, right? It's like, oh, we used to say this, oh, so and so is slow. That's like the biggest burn to me in comics. Like, oh, so and so is slow. Like, you do anybody's pages and see how long it takes you to do them. But to say, like, no, this is what I can do and still get up and have a meal, or like get up and take a bath or something like that, I think I want to live in that world where you can kind of
have my man draw my bath.
I'm just saying, I think work-life balance is something that if I'm going to do my part now.
It's always hard, though. It's always hard.
It is. It's very hard. But for the last couple of years now, I've been trying to be kinder to myself. I'm totally part of my personality. I'm like a what do you call it? Like a people pleaser and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm trying to reshape all of that stuff. So I'm taking care of myself first. You know what I'm saying? So I'm setting more boundaries. I'm trying to get more sleep. I'm trying to drink my water. I'm trying to dot. But while all that stuff is happening, I turned in another graphic novel this year. You know what I'm saying? I got the key to the city this year, which was pretty dope, right? I had a lot of really amazing things happen.
The doors?
I tried it. It didn't work. Maybe they gave me the fake key, the 52 pickup. Right. And I guess where I am and going forward is trying to find a balance, trying to find that balance. And all the times we have our episodes where it's just the three of us talking, I always seem like I'm in the middle. Right. I'm just like, well, not everything is totally to shit. It's close, but, I feel like if you guys get anything out of this is that we can be the point of light in the darkness, right? What's the point of even doing this if we're just like, oh, it's all bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, then we wouldn't be here. So I always want to keep that going. What do you want? Steve wants me to do some show and tell. Hold on one second.
Please do.
So speaking of Scholastic, I got some swag. Did I show you guys this? Maybe I didn't. So this is a nice little tote bag that just came out.
Yeah, you showed us that last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Steve asked for it again.
Yeah. I don't know if we shared it on the stream, did we? I might have been post show, but I could look at that all day. So
how cool is that? So
do you just happen to walk down the street fashionably holding your tote bag?
No, you know what? I don't get a lot of this stuff, so like I keep some of the stuff in the vault. I have like a Leon archive, and what a giant part of my career has been being affiliated with Scholastic. And there's my guy right in the middle. Look, there's Raina. We have Raina Telgemeier on the show. There's Dogman, Bone. There's Kazu's Amulet, Babysitter's Club. Come on, you guys. What did I say? I must be doing something right. So, but yeah, it's in the bag. Thank you, Joseph. So, I just think that, going forward, it's like, let's please take care of ourselves. Even to the thing of, thank you, Tim, that there's only one JAMAR Nicholas. Right? So I even have to think about that. You can take that however you want. And sometimes I feel like that when I'm arguing with people about my appearance fee. Like, yo, there's only one of me. Let's figure it out. Do the math. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for that. Let's start the show, which is like 30 minutes in. So, guys, what we're gonna do tonight is kind of do a quick so-and-so Earthsat's countdown of some big touch points that happened this year. And a lot of this stuff is already ongoing. So none of this is really new. It's more like, oh, guess what happened with AI this time? You know what I mean? So we just wrote down some stuff, and I figured we could talk about it in the chat. Please jump in. And if you guys have any questions for us while we're doing this, please go on and ask.
Who are the cartooning Santas?
That's right. Who are the Santas? Nice. So let's start here. And I think this was interesting because one of my favorite episodes is when we have Fabrice Sapolsky on. I think that was at the very beginning of the year, or maybe the very end of last year. It was close. If it wasn't, I think it was.
The ends blur.
It does. They do blur. And what I loved about Fabrice is that he is kind of like the face of the new. I don't want to call him the new era, but he is like a legit publisher, self-publisher, and he has an imprint, and he has people that he owes product to, and books to, and money to, and the things that he had when we talked. Oh, with late. Okay, thank you. It was late May. We got it in. Was very revealing and very interesting to talk about. So the ongoing Diamond saga is where we could start. So Steve, you want to kind of get us up to speed on what Diamond is?
I brushed up a little bit on it. It seems like in the last week they've gone from chapter 11 to chapter 7, and which is chapter 11 is kind of like hey, we're gonna I don't know, put a fresh coat of paint on everything and try to keep the plan to come back in some fashion, or hold on in some fashion, or still be a business in some way as they try to figure something out. What's that?
Get some lines of credit.
Yeah, and then they went to chapter 7, which basically is like, oh no, we're just going to sell this thing for parts, and this is gone. They're basically calling it. But so that means it goes to, if I understand it correctly, it goes to a whole new judge. Resets all the legal cases that were previously in motion with it when it was under chapter 11. And now in this new case, things are basically starting over again. So I heard one role-playing game publisher talking about one of the things that people were fighting for with the current Diamond situation was that a lot of their books were on consignment, essentially. You'd send your books to Diamond, they'd be in their warehouses. When the books get ordered, they come out of the warehouse, and then you get paid. But the books are still yours. Essentially, Diamond's kind of a consignor, consignee. But right now the books were there, and so at some point during the chapter 11, they were treating that property in their warehouse as their property and selling it to try to make some money. And according to some law in Maryland, I think it was, because you didn't make a statement within an X amount of time to file paperwork within X amount of time to claim back your merchandise, that it was theirs. And the publishers didn't know about this deadline, and so the stuff was all being held, and a lot of lawsuits were being
bandied about
to try to get their stuff back. And
right.
So in the current situation, they, for all we know, the new people who are running it might just say this is the publisher's stuff, but you have to go to Mississippi to pick it up. Like, you might have to rent a van and pick up a ton of books from so who knows where it stands right now, but right now it seems like Diamond is in a whole new
chapter 7 was litigation, I think. Chapter 11 is you get time and sometimes loans to restart, reorganize, get rid of debt, stuff
come
like
back
that.
In some form. Yeah.
Right. And chapter 7 is, we're going to break this up. And then everybody gets in line to see who can get scraps from what's left. And the thing is that the smaller guys are always the people that never get the scraps.
They're left in line. Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of people that were owed a lot of money from Diamond. And then even when you get your stuff back, you're never even make stuff back, but it's like, or you can't afford to.
Yeah, you can't. They can't. So, the publisher might not be able to take the time to go get their books from wherever they might be, or. But I think the other end of the story is that is it Universal who's picking up the slack, and they're going to be, I think, or do they have free comic book day? Are they the ones going to be taking care of that for 2026? It seems like there is a new distributor. There will be new distribution. It just won't be Diamond, and they're going to have a lot of shaking out to do.
And two, and I'm glad that, and maybe as we do this, we can kind of touch back to some of our episodes. And this is a great follow-up with early in the year we had Joe Murray on, who is the owner of Captain Blue Hen Comics in lovely Newark, Delaware, and also the president of Comics Pro. And I remember I was like ringing the cowbell. I'm like, for every one of you guys that sits in the comic shop on Wednesdays and just like talks people's ears off about how the comic book business works, will you please watch this? Because this guy actually knows how this stuff works and can explain things. You see that this is real, right? And I know the lines get blurred because it's everyone's hobby. You know, like you like to go and get your pulls, and it's all fun and games until the comics don't come anymore. And what's going on? That's what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that affects the retailers. And if the retailers, any retailers go, then it's like, it's not just one hole in the boat. There's a lot of holes in the boat. Right. And these are the kind of things that you try to explain to a young artist, that there's these events that happen outside of your studio that could completely torpedo all the stuff that you did. It wouldn't matter how great your drawings were, the story was. If you can't get the book in front of people to read, people cannot buy it, then it's sort of like all for naught. You have to try to recoup. And then it makes it harder because there's uncertainty. And uncertainty is never good unless you're trying to short comics in some way, right? Uncertainty is never good for the entertainment business. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's never a positive thing. You know, and comics have been around. They've gone through a lot of ups and downs, but you know, right now, I think the real question to me that touches on that is the mergers, because depending upon who ends up owning what, one of the major publishers may be greatly affected, right? I was talking to some friends the other day about that. Like, you know, Netflix doesn't do print. And I remember when, like, DC always did cartoon versions of the, you know, Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab and Superman and Batman Adventures, Batman Beyond, whatever shows, there was a comic of that. And Netflix doesn't do that. So when they did the Kid thing, I inquired, and I was told that I was not interested in doing anything like that. So it is not out of the realm of possibilities that DC could be affected down the road, because we know that Netflix really is got tight purse strings, and can't show that was successful, but not quite successful enough after one season. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could say, well, we'll keep DC, but we're gonna farm it out. We're gonna farm it out to somebody else. Who knows what happens to animation? To me, it's all sort of, if you're a creative person and your job is affected by one of those fields, you have to really pay attention to that. You know.
I find it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I find it funny how, if this stuff doesn't have a really clear timeline for the neckbeards, nobody seems to be interested in what's really happening. Like when Fox got swallowed up, they're like, "Oh, now we get an X-Men movie." Like, bro, it's bigger than that. You know what I mean? So, like, just the what was it, the antitrust and all this wild stuff that's going on right now is really going to set the landscape for more than just a couple of things going down the road. Well, this was on my list, so we'll just talk through Netflix.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Because I think the other is that everyone's excited the possibility, oh, what if so-and-so owns such and such? And then we'll get to see, you're thinking like a fan, oh, if Netflix owns Batman, what does that mean? Right? But again, you don't own Batman. So, if you're just a fan, maybe it works. But if you're a guy who draws Batman, that's probably not a good thing. Right? I always try to look at it as a businessman. Right? My business is drawing. I've drawn different versions of Batman. So if I wanted to continue to draw Batman, I look at it like, well, how will that affect my ability to do storyboards or comic books with Batman, right? And I remember when the AOL Time Warner thing happened, I did not think it was going to be a good thing for artists, and it ended up not being a good thing for artists. So I always think these things are, and then, everybody talks about these ideal things about when they merge and all this synergy and all blah, 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 blah. And it never works out that way.
Synergy means mass layoffs, right? Is that
usually that's, like why, if this happens, they would own Cartoon Network, Hanna-Barbera, they own all of this stuff. Why do you need, you have 3 different animation studios. Why do you need 3 animation studios? If I own Scooby-Doo,
right,
and I own Bugs Bunny, and I own all, Tom and Jerry, I own Fred Flintstone. Why do I need 3 animation studios? Right? I just got all the stuff. Why do I need 3? No, they'll they will condense because they got to get rid of the debt.
Steve, you got anything else to add to the Netflix stuff?
No, it's a growing. Well, a couple of things, I guess. The growing consolidation, strip mining of childhoods, selling our memories back to us in pieces of articulated plastic. It's always surprising the things that you don't remember that suddenly become owned by Disney or what will be Netflix. There'll be something that we haven't thought about in a long time, but suddenly, oh wow, that's now part of their catalog. But also, a lot of these classic properties they're purchasing are inching closer to public domain status. So congratulations, you now own Superman and it's public domain. So they're either they're buying something which has less value. I mean, sure, it doesn't own Kryptonite. It doesn't own all the things that happened post the day of launch of Superman. It doesn't have a lot of the other things that we now associate with those brands, but the brands, maybe, sorry, superheroes. I meant superheroes. I said brands, but in my head, that's the same thing. But I don't know if it'll be also a push to extend the copyright ownership date. I don't know if that will follow. If you're going to spend
90, it's 90 years now, or 90 or 95 years now.
Yeah,
I think what it is.
An illogical amount of time. But I don't know if you're going to spend that much money to buy these things. Because what are they buying really? The buildings,
No, they're going to sell some of those. They're going to sell a lot of those. There's sell a lot of. I mean, they already got rid of the old Hanna-Barbera studio. That's gone. The Cartoon Network building is gone. They're getting rid of a lot of that stuff. They were going to sell it because they got to pay down the debt. So, it's just something that and then if it doesn't go through, then what? Right? Then that will probably also cause a consolidation. So you can't really escape it, no matter what. It's either going to be bad or kind of like really bad, right?
But thinking about it, one of the things that seemed to be a recurring theme in response to this, a lot of artists were saying, and this is why you have to own your own stuff.
Yes,
that seemed to be in almost every case. I think you even did a post about that, Mike.
Yep.
Where you have to own your own stuff. So as someone who makes my own things, I do feel
You're ahead of the curve, Steve.
well, I don't know, but I feel in less jeopardy, I think, than some people who might be, when there's only two companies to work for, once you've sent your resume to both companies, I don't know what you do in terms of search for a job. But if you're going to do your own thing and create your own audience, and that path is still difficult, but it's still there.
I talked to a young friend of mine today over Zoom who's in France. She's an animator, and she's living in France and working in France and trying to stay in France and work in Europe. And the animation business is not much better in Europe, but it is better than it is in the United States. And it's actually cheaper for her to live. So, and it's not easy because, you go to France, you got to learn how to speak French, which is, not necessarily always easy. So, but yeah, it's like, and she's working on many independent things, trying to do exactly what you were talking about. And so you're right. A lot of people this week said, make your own shit, own your own shit. And like I said, I always take a page from a guy like Kirby because he had a drawer full of stuff. Commandy was in a drawer since the 50s, right? He had a drawer full of stuff, probably still has a drawer full of stuff that he never made. And the fact is, it may not be your first idea. It may be your 10th idea, right? It may be, people tend to, when they look at someone who is successful, they tend to just think of all the successes, but they don't tend to look at all the things that didn't work. But that propelled the momentum of them doing that, even though it failed, propelled them forward to the next idea that they never would have gotten to if they hadn't done the first idea, right? So that's the first stage and the third stage, and maybe your rocket has 20 stages, right? Each stage gets you a little bit further, or at least you don't fall back to earth, right? And just, again, that's where we are on the timeline. That's just where you are. It does you better to own your own stuff than to ever work for any of these companies now. It used to be that you could work for these companies for 40 years, but nobody who is 20 is going to work anywhere 40 years if they don't own it themselves. It's just never going to happen.
And I would say, like, if you are making your own stuff and it is published and you're self-publishing it, do submit it, do get it the copyright registered. That is something you can do. It doesn't cost much. You can send it to the Library of Congress. I think it's like $60 to go to their website and send it in, and you'll have protection. So if someone does take that idea, that you don't need a lawyer who has to fight their lawyers. Essentially, as it was described to me, if you have the copyright registered, you're not calling a lawyer. You're basically calling a cop. They're going to enforce. You're enforcing the thing that you have the legal protection up for. So, yeah.
All right, let's move it along. So with that, let's talk about, hold on, I got it all keyed up here. Let's talk about speaking of that, the superhero movie came and went. So we had a little dust up in the green room. We're getting heated. We're getting heated about that. So a lot of big blockbuster superhero titles came out this year on the big screen, and then they were gone. So we kind of got into this thing about numbers and the metrics and stuff like that. But kind of where I'm sitting is that not necessarily that everybody has superhero fatigue. Maybe there's some of that, but it's kind of like whatever that stickiness is not sticking the way it used to. And I think maybe the biggest case in point was the Superman movie. I didn't see it. That's crazy. It's like, this is like the first run of things in the theater. It's not like I don't go to the movies. I'll still go to the theater. I like the reclining seats, and some of them are heated. That's cool. I'm not like anti-theater. I just wasn't pressed. I wasn't pressed to go. Even with Fantastic Four, I don't know. Reed didn't have a mustache. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get caught up in the semantics of anything, but it's just like whatever that was supposed to do didn't do it for me. And I don't know if that's going to go into the next like Secret Wars stuff. I just feel people are like, nah, everybody's kind of cold, lukewarm. I feel like everybody's warm on it now. So, what do you guys think? I'll ask Mike, how you feel about the superhero movie in 2025?
Well, like we were talking in the green room, I think that the only reason Hollywood does any of this stuff is because it makes money, right?
Well,
they're not sitting
yeah.
down and doing these big movies because like they just love superheroes, right? Individual people working on those movies might love those superheroes, but the only reason why those corporations do it is to make $1 billion, right? That's the number now everybody has in their brain with any of these movies, $1 billion, right? So, and you're seeing like the fifth retread of like Superman. And then there's a lot of Superman out there, and there's Superman's is right. And so, you know, I didn't go to the movies to see it. It didn't look particularly interesting to me. And I like Superman. He was my favorite superhero as a kid. I like Superman. But it's just like, and the same with the Fantastic Four. I didn't go to the theater. I didn't, you know, I saw it on video. You know, it's like there's nothing. There's no, and I'm primed to like this stuff, right? This is stuff I have loved since I was a kid. This is what I said on one of my posts the other day, right? I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love the Fantastic Four. There's a lot of the stuff that I love since I was a kid. So I've been doing this, reading this stuff for 60 years. So if there's anybody who loves this stuff, I have proven that I love this stuff. I have spent my life creating it, consuming it, right? Buying it. I have money that I will spend to, you know, go download a movie or go to the movie. And I think we've just gotten to the point that it's not fresh. And there's too much stuff. And then what they're making, just to sort of like, well, it's like the soup. We'll just add a little bit more water, and I'll put carrots in it now, right? Or I'll put this other thing in it. And I think people have. It's a whole. We have. One of the things I don't see a lot of people talk about is that it's also, we have passed a generation. I mean, that Marvel stuff has been going since what, 2010, right? Iron Man was like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's 15 years. So if you liked Iron Man when you were 10, you're 25 now. And maybe you don't like Iron Man anymore. Maybe you like something else, right? Star Wars has passed, as hard as it is to understand that. So I think, you know, they've thinned it down, and it really, to be honest, I mean, I cannot separate the creator aspect of myself from I'm not satisfied by fan service. A fan who just consumes it is not the same as someone who produces it, because I know where all the nuts and bolts are. When I watch it not only as a fan of the material, I watch it as somebody who makes this stuff. As a storyteller, and I found both of them actually pretty pathetic. You know, for all the money that they spent on it and everything. I really didn't care about the Fantastic. I didn't care if Galactus stayed the year. I wasn't afraid of Galactus, you know, and I like Superman, and, you know, Corn Sweet is an okay, but I really didn't care about him. And I think because they keep retreading this stuff and shoving it in your face, and people are like, oh yeah, I've eaten Superman soup before, and, you know, it's okay. Right. Yeah. You know, I've had Superman before. This isn't okay. You know, it's all right. You know, if you ask me, I'm going to go to this restaurant again. No. And the thing is that they lost that in Hollywood. You know, as I was saying in our green room. So Zootopia 2 came out. Zootopia 2 made $1 billion in 17 days. the fastest $1 billion of any animated film ever. That's all they care about. When you're $80 billion old, you need $1 billion, and you need 80 more of those $1 billion. So Disney, between Lilo and Stitch and Zootopia, that's $2 billion. So they have the top 2 or 3 films of this year, and that's all they care about, right? That's all that matters to them, right?
I think you won, Mike. That was in the first show. Thank you. Good night.
And so, as long as that happens, it's not going. Oh, it's my glucose meter. As long as that happens, they're making $1 billion. Everybody's happy, right? All sins are forgiven. You get to do another one. The minute it doesn't make $1 billion, if you film costs you $350 million to make, $300 million to market, and you make $600 million, you don't make any money. $150 million is not now considered to be money, right? $1 billion is money. $100 million, $350 million, not when you need $1 billion, right? And people, that's all that matters. All this shifting the chairs and people merging and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of disappointing because on one hand, it would be nice if the Fantastic Four was better and it looked more like. I think they're being punished for not making it look enough like Jack Kirby. But it's like, why do I care about this material, right? It's nostalgia. It's all repackaged nostalgia, right? Star Trek, Star Wars, every toy that you read, every comic, Spider-Man, it's all repackaged nostalgia. And if they don't appeal to the biggest group of people, it's a failure, which is why they signed the AI thing, because fans are already making more interesting stuff. My AI slop feed on all my socials is full of people doing stuff with AI. So that's why Disney goes, we're already being ripped off. People are already doing Frozen and doing Frozen porn, right? So we better, and I predicted this. This is exactly what they would do. I predicted this 3 years ago, that they would get to the point where, why do I have to spend $350 million to develop a movie, right? When you will develop the movie for free, you will buy my package, I will license it to you, and then when you make something that's the next Zootopia, I fucking still own it. And I will be able to take the best of that and still make money off of it. So, again, that's why it's so important for you to own your own stuff.
So that's counterpoint. I liked Superman. That's my whole counterpoint.
Well, what about and I don't. One thing that I love about the show is that we don't get bogged down in the fandom. I've said this forever, even on my other show. When I talk about fandom, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the fandom, not exactly somebody who's watching it. We try not to get caught up in that. It's like, but I feel like there's a fatigue there, even just like reading the tea leaves. Like, oh, is James Gunn going to not, or is he going over here now? I just invested all this time in these new Superman, the dude from Philly Superman. What he's not now. Like already, the thing just came out, and there might not be more of them. I think you're like jerking the fans' chain a little bit too much.
Well, this constantly being jerked. Like every 3 years, it's like, well, that Snyder thing, that's not canon anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not into that whole thing with Star Wars, but I do know that there was some sort of calling within the Star Wars fandom where there was stuff that was canon and that was taken out of canon, which made people angry. I mean, if you're a fan of stuff, You invested your love and your time and your interest and your imagination, right? And then somebody comes and buys Paramount and goes, Captain Pike is in a different timeline than the regular. And then people like, what? What? You mean all those years I watched Star Trek, none of that is true anymore? It does affect the fans, I think, when you say, oh, well, Norman Osborn's not the Green Goblin anymore. It was always J. Jonah Jameson, or, some crazy thing like that. And part of it is also driven by the fact that they own this stuff. And like Steve said, the clock is ticking. Nobody's really giving them new stuff with that. So they're trying to squeeze whatever paste out of the tube they got. Because in 10 or 15 years, all the major stuff goes public domain. You won't be able to trademark Batman because they'll still, but they won't own the copyright anymore. And so, it's just kind of a crazy thing. And I think that if you invest as a creative person, we all love that stuff. We all love Bugs Bunny and Batman and Squiddly Diddly or whatever Turbo Teen, whatever it was your shit when you're John when you were a kid.
Turbo Teen was my shit.
Right, but if you own your own thing, I was talking with Stan Sakai last week. He owns Usagi. So he's talking things, working out things, investigating things, because it's his.
Right.
He didn't sell it to Netflix, right? If he had sold it to Netflix, if Mike Mignola had sold Hellboy,
right, he
could still be doing Hellboy now, probably. Because even if you're the creator and you sell it, then you want to go do your own comic. Maybe you have a clause in your contract.
If you thought that far ahead before you
right,
sold
and I still want to be able to do my own version of Hellboy, but then they're doing some other like bastard version of Hellboy. It's just like it hurts your heart probably if you're having that go on. So yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about those movies, and I think this topic definitely was well stated. I thought there is a fatigue. I think because there is just so much of it. I mean, I think I don't think you can make it through Eternals and still feel a lot of excitement for superhero movies.
Well, hey, I know this, Steve. If you go to Ollie's discount store, you can get all the Turtles toys. They're still there.
I saw that.
They're waiting for you. Go get them.
So I get that, but I do think that there's, like the goal of some of these things. Like was again, like we just said, Superman was profitable. Was it profitable enough? Maybe not. But I think what Tom said, that Hollywood always takes the wrong lessons. Tom Zoller. Hollywood always takes the wrong lessons. They'll see Zootopia 2 and say, quote, we need more anthropomorphic crime dramas, and not, quote, we need something else good. I think the problem is they might not believe that a good exists. They know it's profitable, and they know that people do some stuff, and sometimes it resonates with certain demographics, but the concept of good and bad really doesn't enter into it.
Says nobody knows anything. That's his famous
yeah, William Goldman. Yeah.
Nobody knows anything, and it's really true, because if they did, then everything would be a hit. And the fact is, almost nothing is a hit, right? Like 95% of the stuff that's produced is not a hit, right? And that's why I would say, at least with Superman, even though there's a ton of fatigue, I felt like that was a bit of a breath of fresh air. And what I did like of all the things about it was that it was embracing the weirdness of comics, not full on Adam West weirdness, not like the Suicide Squad, but it was fun and I just thought it was fun. I'm also an easy mark for these things. I mentioned that before the show. Like you can, this is like dangling keys in front of me. I get excited. And I did see them both in the theater, not opening weekend, because I don't want whatever diseases everyone has now. But I did see it. I don't know. I'm excited. I hope there's more of James Gunn's
flavor to the DC universe. I like to see where that goes, and who knows whether this Doomsday thing is their last gasp or a rebirth.
I think that they're really at a point where if the Secret Wars whatever thing, if that doesn't blow up huge,
That's bad.
that's why they're bringing back Chris Evans. I think you will see a real retrenchment on and rethinking what they're doing, and they're doing the same way with Star Wars, right? They're rethinking that because all the crappy TV shows are not really working out for them. So it was always that stuff was special, right? Whatever that particular unique mix of elements is to make something special. I think we're in the time of where it was what's his name from the Incredibles said, if everybody's super, nobody's super. And I think we're kind of living in the fact that if everything is super, then nothing is super, right? Even the stuff that is the most successful, people, I didn't, you have a few fanboys that really rave about it, but if the general public is standing in line
right
on a Friday night to go in to see a film, you really don't see that now. As shitty as the prequels were, people were genuinely excited to go see Star Wars in the theater, even if they were disappointed. They came out with long faces. Well, it's a face as long as Jar Jar Binks. People were actually excited in a way that I don't see. And you see a lot of fanboys arguing online, but I don't see the average person talking about that stuff in a way. And little kids don't get excited about it.
Well, there's also something that someone pointed out, and this again, the TTRPG space, where someone said there's people who play the game, people buy the books, but then there's also this other hobby, which is following the news about the business. And that's a whole other thing, where this is so much of this is not even about enjoying the medium. It's not even about getting your ticket or all this other stuff. There's just this filling every TikTok second with all the news, and that's more tiring than anything else. And so you can be burnt out on a subject, but and you haven't even the tickets aren't on sale yet. You could be tired of the whole thing.
One thing that I've seen, and I was gonna blame the internet. I blame the internet for everything. Is I think we're also caught in a cycle where people are more hyped about the idea of the thing, and when you get to actually see the thing, you're always let down.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, even think about how when a trailer drops or gets leaked, and then a second after that happens, there's 1,000 response YouTube videos going through the Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And the speculation of what that blur in the background could be. They're more hyped about that than actually going to see the movie, because that's like, oh, that sucked. Like, I think we kind of still want to we want to anticipate something, so our imaginations is something, again, we don't use as much as we used to. The imagination part is really exciting and thrilling and dopamine rushing to people. We actually get the thing.
I think that it ties into like the conspiracy theory mind. You notice something that nobody else did, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that with this. I noticed that thing, that blur, like you said, in the background is
that's Bat Rock the Leaper.
Right, yeah. But I would say that the success of something like K-pop Demon Hunter,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So here's something that came out that was not believed in by Sony, which is why they ended up doing the Netflix deal, right? They didn't think it was going to be that big of a success. It's huge. So it proves that if you put out something that's fresh, you can capture the imaginations of people. And if you think about the story, is kind of a simple story. Really, it's a love story, right? Mm-hmm. The plot of it is not Shakespearean or anything like that, but it's told in a way that's entertaining. It had good music, and it not only it captured probably a lot of the same audience that goes and watches what's her name, the I'm spacing on her name now, the singer
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Swift.
Yeah, you know, because Taylor Swift is totally not my thing. You know, I've listened to her music. I don't find it particularly remarkable at all. Again, it's not my demographic, right? But it captures people. And that's the thing. So now Hollywood will go. That came out of nowhere. They didn't believe in it. They did the deal with Netflix. Now it's this huge hit. Everybody's going to try to capture that lightning in the bottle because that's the way Hollywood, instead of trying to do another unique thing, right? But I think you have not had something like that with superheroes in a long, long time, right? Where you
I
had
think the last one of that was probably Guardians, but they were still riding high on Marvel's juice. The initial, you know, they still had a lot of momentum from Marvel's brand. But I do think something like a Guardians could work, something that is a property no one really thinks about. I mean, Madam Web could have been awesome. I think most things could be awesome, you know, if the stars align, if you get the cast you want, you get the budget you want, you start with a good script. But I mean, it's all possible. I'm happy they're making it, but like you're saying, Mike, you know, none of these studios. What's the line? Nobody wants to be first, but everyone wants to be first to be second.
right.
So yeah, there'll be a bunch of copies.
That's great. All right, guys. So what's your last note on this, Mike? And we'll go.
No, I was just saying that I think if the Avengers, the next Avengers thing is not more K-pop Demon Hunter like than Superman, it will be a tough nugget for that whole thing.
Word up. All right, so we're kind of chewing up our airtime here, but I'm glad that we got so much runway out of that last topic. So I have a couple more, see if we can fit them in. Steve, you okay tonight? Can we talk a little bit longer? Is that okay? Okay. All right, so because we want to give you, dear viewer, your entertainment dollar tonight. Next up, we had a really strong convention season. I think, you know, whatever was kind of I don't know, like the sticky residue from the lockdown has seemed to be gone, and people went back to the convention floor in droves. One of my favorite episodes, I keep saying that, you notice that? One of my favorite episodes was when we did the shop talk and we talked about the Artist Alley at New York Comic Con. And we showed the video of people just walking the floor. And it was packed, right? So maybe even Super D was talking about fandom and everything. I think fandom is high. I think people are looking for something to hold on to, especially right now. And the one thing I remember saying in that episode is like, my reports are not necessarily from the exhibitors table, because the exhibitors table is always going to tell you everything sucks and I ain't making any money and this is a print show. As you know, it's you're laughing because that's what happens at everybody's table. Mm-hmm. Everybody says everything sucks. The fans are having a great time. Right. And I think that's something we need to think about, and what's making them have fun. Maybe give them what they want. That's a whole other conversation. So even to the point of, and this is, I could tie this back into me a little bit, where with the blessing and help of the National Cartoon Society, we set up at the American Library Association conference in Philly. And even the internet said, I think Heidi on Comics Beat or somebody out in the comics press said, you heard it here first, ALA is the biggest comic book convention in the United States now. Not necessarily in size to San Diego or New York Comic Con, but where businesses happen. Right. So that's something to think about, even with the still growing graphic novel space. It's something to consider when you're about to get your suitcase ready to go to the next convention. and I wanted to kind of add this to our thing. As a creator or somebody who's making comics or that kind of material, I think it would behoove you to be very choosy about what you're putting your convention dollar into going forward.
Dig into that. What do you mean?
Well, what I'm saying is, and even talking about going to all of these kind of alphabet soup, traditional book publishing things like ALA and BEA and NCTE and all those kind of things that comic book world is still starting to learn about. Even like Otakon, the things like that are more manga and anime based. As a creator, you can't just go to all of it, right? Or maybe even a thing of like CXC or Mocha or SPX, something that's more maybe smaller in size, but maybe more your wheelhouse. Where are you setting up in 2026? I think that's a really strong conversation to have in your studio. So I don't know, Steve, what did you think about either what I said about where cons are going or what they did in 2025?
I still like going to conventions. I still think they have value as yes, you can make money at a convention, but the promotional aspect of it is still very potent, I find, and especially as other methods of reaching those audiences are less effective. The thing people would have said 5 years ago, oh, you got to be on social media, you got to be on social media. But now that all of that is, pay to boost your posts so you can reach the people who like your work. Everything is nickel and diming independent creators to death. And I feel like, yes, conventions do that. The $8 pretzel. But I think that conventions have if you are able to represent your work well, I feel like they're still really a great place to find your audience. And I mean, I know at some point someone's going to walk by the table, if they don't already, and just go, "Who's that old man?" I mean, that's the clock I'm racing, Mike. Is at some point there's going to be like, "Who's that? Who's that hunched over guy with a broken foot?" And it's at some point I won't have the energy to sell my own work. So as long as I can, I want to keep doing these conventions and finding my audiences there.
All right, so I'm just going to run to the next thing because I also threw in here real quick. Also, I think cartooning was on a different spotlight this year. Like 75 years of Peanuts happened this year. Another one of my favorite episodes, Mike Manley, you see where I'm going with this, was when we had Benjamin L. Clark from the Schultz Museum on to celebrate 75 years of Peanuts. And also just like the fantastic things the Billy Ireland Museum on OSU's campus is doing, and kind of like archiving and celebrating cartooning as a whole is really dope to me. The fact that CXC, the Columbus Crossroads, is jumping. Yeah. I think, anytime we can celebrate cartooning, I think is really, really important. Mike, what did you think about the Schultz Museum episode, or how do you feel about 75 years of Peanuts, especially being a strip artist yourself?
I thought it was a great episode. I just still think it's shows you the strength of those particular characters. What, more than a decade after their creator has passed, that the stuff still lives on, which is kind of rare for comic strips, because a lot of times when the creator passes, then the stuff falls out of the paper, and that's kind of it. I mean, Peanuts is kind of maybe the grandest exception to that, because it is so wedded to the culture, even if only just for the holiday specials. I mean, everybody's social media since midnight on October 31st has been filled with, Charlie Brown, Christmas.
Vince Guaraldi music.
Yeah. I mean, my feed has just been jammed with it. And there really isn't any there's nothing else like that. Right. But I saw something the other day on that the CBS didn't like didn't want to use Vince Guaraldi's music, didn't like the jazz theme, all the stuff that's gone on now to be like the thing that everybody loves about it. The CBS didn't like it. They didn't want to do it. They weren't happy with it. So, but yeah, I think Peanuts is really the only one that will probably be. I don't even think Garfield, because there's no Garfield Christmas special or whatever. There's just a few of those things that reach that golden, forever golden, Pepperidge Farm remembers memory bank, like Rudolph and the Grinch and, all that stuff, and it's probably mostly due to us baby boomers, but yeah, I thought that was great. But it also shines the light on the fact that I would say singularly, Peanuts is probably the exception in that regard.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'll say to what you're saying, and I think is interesting, when when a cartoonist passes, especially with a lot of, I guess you call them legacy strips, somebody continues on. Like Mike, the Phantom is a great example of that. Somebody picks up the pen and keeps going. And
yeah, I think I'm like the seventh guy, the seventh guy on the strip, I think.
Wow. But but that's kind of rare that, who's going to come after Schultz, right? But for everyone else, like, there's probably too much to lose to just let a strip wash away, right? So somebody picks that up and carries the torch.
Well, he was of the status that he could say, when I'm gone, that's it. Right? That was in his contract, right? So I'm sure, Dick Brown and his son did it, and then when he passes, then somebody else does it. I mean, how many people have done Popeye? How many people have done Flash Gordon? How many people have done the Phantom? How many people have done Blondie? Right? I mean, when the syndicate owns it, then they'll just, they're still doing Dick Tracy, right? There's just some of those characters will keep going simply because
a lesson there that his stuff is timeless. His stuff was not of the day. It was never like the way Pogo was making commentary on the news, and suddenly it gets some of the best cartoonists are political cartoonists, and this stuff doesn't ages like milk. It is just there's no collections of the. I mean, you need Wikipedia to understand Pogo. It's gorgeous, and some of the strips stand on their own, and the Christmas books and things like that, they stand on their own. But the strip itself, it's a Lyndon Baines Johnson joke, or the Robert Birch Society. I don't know what it means, So there's something to say if you're going to make your own stuff and figuring out a way to ensure that it still makes sense when you're trying to sell it 20 years later.
Well, see, it depends upon the kind of story too, because you don't see cars and trucks, and you don't see that stuff in Peanuts, right? It's very much just like the kids and Snoopy, and maybe Snoopy has his fantasies about the World War I flying ace, but you don't really see him fighting other, Kershaw Rid Baron or whatever. But it's all sort of in your imagination or his imagination, right? So in that way, it's not tied to like, oh, that's a 1957 Buick. Oh, that's a 1974 Ford. There are hardly any strips that are like that are contemporary, but are designed in a way that you don't see anything. There's a step and a doorway and a doghouse, but that's really unique. Everything else is sort of tied down because I think that's one of the things that actually, in a way, I always felt that hurts when they do the modern version of the Warner Brothers cartoons. There's something sort of timeless about those cartoons, but when you do them now, they try to update them, and have Bugs Bunny rap or something like that, or they try to draw like contemporary cars and back, but they have a job at an office or something, and it's like Bugs Bunny in a fax machine or something. You know what I mean? It just like it doesn't age. I don't know if he planned it that way or that's just the way it ended up working out in his world. You know, they don't wear watches. They don't. You know, they don't have any. There's no cell phone. You know, he never incorporated any of that stuff that would date it, which I think is one of the reasons why you can read it now, even as a kid. You can be a new convert to it, but you don't go like, here's an old, you know, maybe there's a telephone in it, right? Which would be old to a kid because there's a phone with a cord on it or something, you know. But
the Jack Benny caveman short,
right?
Is that Jack Benny?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. It's still, I think it's still the most unique strip in regards to that. Because Doonesbury is political, so it's always going to be dated no matter what.
Right.
If you got Nixon or you've got every president in there, you know.
Right.
All right, we're running out of time and we have more things to do, but I am going to, because I feel like I'm always kind of shorting Tim Fielder, and he had a question early in this thing. I want to put it on the screen. Tim says, what do you guys think about the possibilities of a major indie small studio environment coming about in comics?
In what way though?
I guess kind of like somebody small becoming large or something like that. Like it made me think of, and again, I'm kind of out of the loop, but I was in Ollie's trying not to buy Eternals figures for $2, like pennies on a dollar. And I went over to the book section and they had all of this really dope manga that I'd never heard of. And a bunch of it was from Saturday AM, which is a Black-owned manga studio, which I was like, holy shit, this is dope. Holy shit, this is $2.99 and there's a whole row of it. I'm going to get all of this. And I feel like there's things like that that are germinating. What is it? What's the one publisher that has their stuff in Dollar General or Dollar Tree? Like those kind of moves, I think, are going to be super important moving forward. So I guess in the landscape of, you know, distribution going out the window and everybody's like running for the hills, how do you feel about a small new come up studio kind of creating the big buzz in 2026? That's how I read into Tim's question.
I don't know. I guess it depends upon what is your buzz? What do you consider to be successful? You want to sell a series to Netflix or get a channel blowing up on YouTube? You know, one of the things I was hearing about, like now, probably what's going to happen is a lot of stuff the podcasts are going to be being put on Netflix. You know, are you producing series that are going to go into comic book stores? Are you producing series that are going to be going into libraries? I mean, to be honest, I don't see any small studio making a big splash in the direct market because even the big people aren't making a splash in the direct market. So I think you have to, if you're trying to have a splash in a pool where the water's constantly going out of the bottom of the pool, then I would think, you know, I don't know whether a studio or it could be an individual produces something like a Dogman or like you did with Leon. You know, I don't think it has to be a studio. It's just, if you have an idea, where are you going to put your idea that the most possible, largest group of people who would be interested in that type of story or character are going to be able to the most easily find it, right? Because everybody has way too much shit, way too much choice. The shit being beamed at you a billion times a second. So I don't know whether
I think it's possible. I think there's probably I think it takes almost alchemy to make it happen. I think it can happen. I mean, with turtles, it happened with turtles. And that wasn't like something like anybody could have predicted. I think there are things, I think Super D might be on the cusp of that. I mean, look at that success of that. That's like huge. Jamar with Leon. I mean, the idea that you have this wonderful thing that is both authentic and personal and universal, and that there's a depth of content that allows a person to dive in once they find it. If that depth isn't there, if they find this thing and they just go, oh, there's only 2 episodes, okay, they'll just wait. And at some point, 8 seconds will pass and they'll see the next thing. But if you have that richness of quality and something that matters, I think you can be that thing long enough for it to catch. And then
how do you get it to your audience too? Like, there are definitely separate, distinct audiences. Like there's people that are on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I'm never going to be on TikTok, right? I'm not a TikTok person. But there are people who are on TikTok and they love TikTok and they follow all this stuff on TikTok, right? Are you trying to get to those people? Are you trying to, like where is your audience, right? Is your audience going to libraries on Saturdays with their mom and dad, or library in their school, or are they going weekly warriors going on Wednesday? Because most of the people that go to the comic book shop on Wednesday are not going to be reading graphic novels in the library.
Right.
They're not going to be reading Leon in the library. They're not going to be going to AMA.
But what used to define success in the spinner rack days, in the headier days of, like, let's say 1992, that when you needed, if you weren't selling 50,000, 100,000 copies, you weren't, you're on the precipice of cancellation. But now, if you have 1,000 dedicated fans, 500 dedicated fans, you can live. You can. I mean, assuming they can. The worry about, like, increased costs and tariffs and all the other stuff that's going on right now. If the economy can somehow stabilize and allow that audience to support you and keep you creating the thing that they love, I mean, anybody can succeed. I honestly think that. But again, you have to have this authentic, well-crafted, deep thing that people can,
and plenty of it. And plenty of it.
Yeah, it's because if it's not deep, and I don't mean deep philosophically, I meant deep in terms of there's books of it, and there's page after page, and if there's not page after page, there's this whole world building thing that you've crafted, and you've got your Silmarillion of other stuff, and a thing that when we were kids and we would like read the handbook of the Marvel Universe or Who's Who, and we're like, I don't know who this character is, but I love that I now know that they're powered by gluons and dark matter. There's like, all that stuff. If you have that depth of material, I think that's really the thing.
Yeah, and I think you two things. What defines a studio? Is it you and like 2 other people all renting a place? Is it you at your home and your assistant comes to your house? I don't think that a studio can be just one person and you just call yourself like Action Planet Studios, right? It's just me, right?
Mike Manley and Associates,
right?
Yeah.
I think the bottom line to everything is if you're going to make your living drawing comic books or comic strips or graphic novels, you have to produce a big volume of it, because if you're not producing a volume of it, the market goes, if I like it, I want more. And if I like it, but I can only sporadically find it, I'll forget about it. You have to think how you were as a kid. We were all hunter-gatherers as kids, right? Because that's the world we came from. You went to this store, oh, I saw this Superman comic. I saw this weird magazine or whatever. There wasn't at the other store that I went, right?
Yeah.
And now
my comic shop was in the shadow of train trestles. You had to find it. Yeah.
And now this is hunting and gathering.
Yeah.
Right? And 99.9% of any young reader you're going to interact with is going to be finding stuff through their phone, right? Or through their friend's phone, right? Or through their friend will find something and they will say, oh, I saw this funny thing, send a link, right? Even though they say how terrible the cell phone is for people or whatever, but which is true, right? In Australia, just banned it for teenagers. But do you know what your audience is? And every audience you have is going to have a different demand. But to me, the bottom line to all of this is if you're a creator and you're not producing a volume of stuff, it makes it really difficult. And how do people find it? Because if there's a lot of it, it's always easy to find.
I love it.
If it's one little book that you put out every couple of years, then you got to have a fantastic ground game whenever that thing is coming out to be able to, That's why all the celebrities write kids' books, because their celebrity already kind of pre-sells the thing, right? If Henry Winkler and a bunch of other guys, they do kids' books. Who knows whether it's any good? But it's Henry Winkler. So he's going to get a lot of people to look at it because it's Henry Winkler, right? Yeah. So, but we don't have that. No. If you're not Stan Lee, nobody's going to really care, right?
Well, I know next year, once we hit spring, I'm going full court press on my next book. Is becoming one of my favorite parts of the every other year is what I get to tell you about. The Gospel of Leon, and I can't wait to get that started, but it's not time yet. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. Pencils down. What a great wrap-up episode. We did it. We did it again. I want to thank everybody for tuning in for a full year of amazing, amazing programming. And we do this for the love. We do this to educate and to entertain, and also that you get your news from a real cartoonist source, not those Johnny-come-latelys, those ham and eggers on the sidewalk. You talk to real cartoonists when you want to know what's going on. I want to end with this. Our buddy Notorious JRD says, gentlemen, just want to wish you all a wonderful holiday and a more prosperous new year. Cheers. Thank you, Notorious JRD. What would we do without you? Thank you, Bear. So, guys, on the way out of here, I want to say this is the last episode of our year. Next week, next week is it's Christmas, and then the week after that is New Year's, and we'll be back January 3rd, I believe. That's the first Wednesday in January. If I'm wrong, someone will correct me. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Super D. Read Rosebuds, and like we said here, D Parsons of Future. You can put your money on that. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank my co-hosts and co-brothers, Mike and Steve. Thank you for all that you do in getting us through another great year. Thanks, Mike, for your stewardship and your wisdom. What do you do? Your wisdom and time in the chair. Steve, I love it. Thank you.
Same to you guys.
Steve, I love hearing you talk. Everybody always says, I wish Steve would say more stuff. It happens all the time. Love to hear your voice. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of your art assets that you brought to the show. You brought a polish and a sheen to the show.
So we did.
We do. We look we look slimming. Vertically slimming. And I thank you guys for letting me be the voice of this show. So thank you guys so much for encouraging my ADHD. I appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it for us. Thank you, guys. Please like, subscribe, and tell your people about us. We'll be back here early 2026 with more content. Guys, Cumberbatch told me in the middle of a battle with Thanos, bro, this is it. We're in the end game. So I think it would behoove us to go into that cold holiday evening with very washed, curvy hands. Thank you guys so much. All right, guys. See you around and follow us on Instagram. Take care. Good night.
See you next year.